In this video, we're going to run through the test results of a chatbot model and see if any fixes or improvements in performance are needed. I'm using a model I've built in IBM Watson Assistant NLP provider. It's just a very simple model and it's based on banking questions which everyone should be familiar with. And it has 42 intents. Now I'm at the stage in the build where I'm ready to optimize the training data using chatbots, which will maximize the performance of my chatbot. So I need to download the file, and it's in JSON format for Watson, and then I can go to chatbots and I can create my first test. So I need to click on create test, and then I'll add this under a new project, and I'll name that project Banking Bot in Watson, and I will name my first test. I'll just put this as initial test. You can put it as anything you wish. And then I upload my source training data. So this is my JSON file that I downloaded. And chatbots will see that this is a Watson file. And all I need to do here now is click on create test. And chatbots will tell me how long this will take to run. And if I want to cancel the test at any time before it's completed, I just need to click here. This took about 2 minutes, and here are the results of the test. The three metrics are 68% for correctness. So this is a measure of how often the model returns the correct intent. 88% for confidence. This is a measure of how confident the model was at returning that correct intent. And 75% for clarity, which is a measure of how sure your model is that the top intent is the right intent. chatbots has classed them as okay or good, so there's certainly room for improvement. On the right, you can see the score distribution graph. As well as the overall metrics for correctness, confidence and clarity, chatbots also gives these metrics for your individual intents. And the graph shows the distribution of each intent by bracket of score, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, etc. For our model, there are a few intents marked in red, so this indicates that the correctness is very low. There's also quite a few intents in amber and some in green. You can also click on the confidence and the clarity tabs, and we can see fairly similar pictures here. Ideally, all intents should be more at this end of the graph and in green, meaning that their metrics are more than 80%. There are also two warnings given here, and looking into this, one of them is informing me I have one intent that has less than 5 training phrases associated with it, and the second warning is advising I have duplicate training data items. So this training phrase here is appearing in both this intent and this intent, and both of these will need to be fixed at some point in my improvement process. Incidentally, Watson refers to them as user examples, but I'll refer to them as training phrases or just phrases throughout this video. Next, I'll go to the Intents tab, and here you can see the full list of intents for my model, ordered by correctness score, with the lowest correctness score intent at the top. Now, it may seem a little daunting to see many red and amber intents and with very low scores, as you can see here. However, just start by concentrating on the lowest score and intent for correctness and try to make improvements to that one before moving on to the next lowest scoring one for correctness. Once correctness scores have been improved, you should then look to see lower scoring confidence intents and improve those ones, and then the lower scoring clarity intents and improve those ones. But always start with improving correctness scores first, because once correctness increases, generally the confidence and clarity follow suit. So let's look at the intent at the top of my list, which is my apply mortgage intent. This intent covers questions on how to apply for a mortgage, and I'm going straight to advanced view to give me a deeper analysis. From the correctness distribution diagram, we can see there are 3 incorrect training phrases, as shown here, as red dots on the diagram. Ideally, all training phrases should be in green and well within this centre circle, as this represents my apply mortgage intent. And the dotted line represents my confidence threshold, which can be adjusted here to match your own confidence threshold. The circles in grey indicate confused areas. So let's pin these 3 incorrect training phrases, and this will form the focus of our first set of improvements. Now, you might wonder why these training phrases are classed as incorrect by QBox when in fact they do exist in your model under the correct intent as training data. But the way the testing works is that the training phrase is tested against the whole model based on being trained without that phrase. And this is very similar to the leave one out testing. And if the training phrase then returns an unexpected intent, this indicates weaknesses, such as weak concepts within the intent, and is then likely to cause confusion within the model. There's also one training phrase that has low confidence, and we can also see this on the confidence distribution diagram here. And if we go to the clarity diagram, we can see 3 training phrases with bad clarity, but these are actually my incorrect ones that need to be fixed anyway. And we have a couple of training phrases that have low clarity. So this means that they're less than 30% difference between my correct intent, apply mortgage, and the next highest predicted intent. And we can see here, there's only 19% difference between the correct intent and the next highest predicted intent, which is the mortgage gen info. And for this training phrase, there's 21% difference to the next highest predicted intent, and it's the same one, mortgage gen info. For now, we'll attempt to fix the 3 incorrect phrases. So let's go back to the correctness distribution diagram. You may find in your own model that you have quite a few incorrect training phrases in your intents. We do recommend that you just try to fix 2 or 3 phrases at a time, then testing them again in QBox to validate those fixes and ensure you have no regression elsewhere in your model before moving on to fix the next 2 or 3 phrases within that same intent. From the correctness distribution graph, 2 of those incorrect phrases are getting confused with my mortgage gen info intent. Now, this intent covers questions on users asking about general mortgage details and types of mortgages available. And one phrase is getting confused with my mortgage status intent. So this one covers questions on the current status of mortgages already applied for. Let's get a deeper analysis by clicking into the first training phrase. Tell me about the mortgages you offer. We know from the graph that this is getting confused with the mortgage gen info intent, and it's 86% confident at this incorrect prediction. But from here, we can also see it's getting confused with the company about intent. So this one covers questions asking more general information about the bank, like a company overview. And it's 40% confident at this incorrect prediction. The correct intent is only 4th on the list of predictions. You can see from the colour-coded highlights that the model has picked up mortgages from the first intent, and there's also some insignificant words being picked up from both incorrect intents. But also I can see a fairly similar phrase at the bottom of this list. What types of mortgage do you offer? I think this phrase fits better in the general mortgages intent, so it looks like this was just human error, and the simple solution is to move this phrase to this intent. So I'll go back to my Watson model, find the intent and find that training phrase, and I need to move it. So these things happen, but it can be quite difficult to pick up on such errors without a tool like QBox. Okay, so hopefully that should solve that problem with that particular training phrase. Let's look at the second incorrect training phrase. What is the mortgage application process? So we know this is getting confused with the mortgage status intent, and it's 81% confident. So from the highlighted words, again, it's picking up on mortgage. So we know that this word mortgage is important in both intents as they both cover mortgage questions, so there's no real surprise here. It's also picking up on application and some insignificant words here too. Next, we need to establish what the main concept or the most important part of this phrase. So this one is asking about what the process is for a mortgage application. By looking at the highlighted words, it does give a good indication of why there's confusion here. But to get a deeper analysis, we should use the explain feature. And I've already hit the perform deep analysis button just for speed. So this shows a chart with each word in the phrase and how much influence, either negatively or positively, that word has on the prediction. So this confirms the main words influencing the phrase to return the mortgage status intent are mortgage, application and process, as they're shown in green, meaning they are having a strong influence on the prediction to that incorrect intent. Mortgage is having a strong influence to the correct intent, but application is not very strongly influenced, and the word process is shown in red, so this word is negatively influencing the correct prediction, meaning this word is weak. Going back to the training data tab, we can see there's no other training phrases containing the concept of asking what the mortgage application process is. So this is regarded as a weak concept. We can hopefully rectify this by adding some more training phrases. We recommend for each concept within an intent, there should be around 3 training phrases. So let's go back to my Watson model and pick up the correct intent and add a couple more phrases. So the first one, I want to know what the mortgage application process is. And the second one, tell me the process for a mortgage application. Okay, so hopefully that should fix the issue with that particular training phrase. And let's go to the last incorrect phrase. So this is, where is your mortgage application form? So this is also getting confused with my mortgage gen info intent, and it's 30% confident at that. And also it's getting confused with my mortgage status intent, which is also 36% confident. And my correct intent is in third place at 32%. From the highlighted words, we can see your and mortgage being strongly represented in the mortgage gen info intent, and mortgage and application being strongly represented in the mortgage status intent. The concept of this phrase is asking where the mortgage form is. Looking at the Explain tab, I can see the strong influence of mortgage, quite obvious to the incorrect intent, and then looking at the mortgage apply intent, mortgage is again a strong influence, but the other important words like application, form and where are either a very weak influence or they're negative influences. So this indicates we have a lack of phrases containing the important words in this one. And looking at the training data for this intent, it just confirms this. No other phrases containing this concept. So let's strengthen the concept by going back to my Watson model and adding show me where the form is for a mortgage application. And one more. Let's have your mortgage form is located where? Hopefully we fix those incorrect training phrases, and then we'll need to look at improving the confidence of this one. We do also have a couple of false positives shown for this intent here, and this is where training data from another intent is getting confused with the intent we're focusing on. These two will need to be fixed, but will likely to be done in the natural course of making gradual improvements, simply by working our way through the lowest scoring intents for correctness, like we're doing now. But for now, we should run another test to validate our fixes. So I downloaded a fresh JSON file from Watson following the changes I made, and then I can go in and create a new test in QBox, and it'll be under the same project. Again, this took a couple of minutes to run, and we can see the results here. Overall correctness and confidence have increased by 1% and clarity by 2%. So it's all going in the right direction. QBox automatically compares this test with the last test run within my project, but you can of course change this comparison by clicking here and compare against any test within any of your projects. So we can see that by just fixing a few training phrases, we've already made some good progress in improving the overall model metrics. And then further down, we can see a new area. So this is the largest direct changes. This list will include any intents whose scores have changed, likely because of a direct change to their training data. And of course, the intent that I've tried to fix, my apply mortgages intent, is in this list. And the other intent is also in the list. This is the one that I moved a wrongly placed training phrase in. And we can see we've made some good improvements to both metrics, which is good news. Over on the right is another new area. This is the indirect unknown changes, and this list will include intents with the largest score changes, both good and bad, but whose training data has not changed. And we can see further details of these and any other intents too by going into the Change Analysis tab, and we'll do that later on. Let's first look at the Apply Mortgage intent to see if the changes we made have been successful. Again, in Advanced View, we can see from the pinned questions that these have now been fixed and have good confidence. And looking at the correctness distribution diagram, we can see all the phrases are now in green and most of them are within my central circle. Although all my training phrases are now being classed as correct and most are with good confidence, the reason the correctness metric isn't 100% is because of the two false positives that still exist. But as I mentioned earlier, these should be rectified in the natural course of model improvements. Now, let's go to the Change Analysis tab to see if the changes we made in our previous test have caused any regressions. This graph shows at a glance whether we have had any increases or decreases in correctness to any of our intents compared to the first test. The white dots represent the metric in the previous test, and the red and green dots represent the metric now. So as well as the intents we fixed, shown here and here, we've actually increased the correctness in one other intent that we've not even touched. This demonstrates that by strengthening concepts within one intent, it is quite likely to define more clearly other intents that perhaps were a bit confused before. We do have two red dots here, so this means we've had some decreases or regression in correctness scores for these. If I scroll down, I can see the full list of intents that have had metric changes, and we can see the two regressed intent scores here. But there's also some really good improvements to correctness scores for these ones. You can also click on the confidence graph to see any improvements or regression in this metric too. And I can see we do have a few regressions here as well. Looking at the list, I can see them here. Some I would class as not significant, but others perhaps are. So if the regression is 5% or less, I wouldn't be too worried about this. And don't be too concerned if you find you have some or lots of regressions while trying to fix an intent. It's all part of the improvement process. Okay, let's take a look at the clarity graph. So there's quite a few changes here. We can also see a few in green, but there's also quite a few in red, although most of them don't look too significant. Let's just go down the list. Yep, I can see a couple of fairly big ones, but most of them are only like 1% changes, so that's not too bad. Okay, if I didn't have any serious regressions from this first fix, then the next step would be to go back to my list of intents here and pick one from the top of the list. So my sentiment good intent would be my next one to fix. However, as I've got significant regression to the correctness for my branch opening times intent, the next step would be to fix that one. So let's take a look at it. This intent obviously covers questions about when the bank branches are open. It's scoring 48% for correctness, 82% for confidence and 32% for clarity. On the correctness distribution graph, there are 3 training phrases marked as incorrect, so let's pin these. And we also have 1 false positive here. The first phrase, tell me the business hours of my local branch. We can see that it's getting confused with the local branch location intent, which covers questions on people asking where their local branch is. We can see that it's 39% confident, but also the intent that it should be going to, my branch opening times, is also 39% confident. So there's quite a bit of a conflict here. From the highlighted words, we can see the most common word that's being picked up from the incorrect intent is probably, or definitely, branch and local as well as these insignificant words, tell, me and the. Let's go to the explain tab, which again I've already run. And we can see that, again, local and branch are probably the strongest influences to go to this incorrect intent. And if we look at the intent that it should be going to, we've got hours that's relatively strong and branch is slightly strong, but local seems to be a bit of a negative influence here, and business has got no influence whatsoever. So the concept of this question is obviously somebody's asking about the business hours of local branch. Now, if we go back to the training data, we can see that there's no other phrases with that particular concept of business hours and local branch. So again, this is a weak concept, and we do need to add some more training data to strengthen this concept. But before I do this in my Watson model, I'm now going to show you another useful feature in QBox, which is the experiment. Once I've established what the issue is with an incorrect training phrase, I can run a quick analysis by adding any new training phrases here, clicking on Update Analysis, and this will show me what the potential impact these changes may have on the scores before actually putting it for real into my Watson model. I've also got the option of editing or even deleting existing training phrases and running a quick analysis again. So let's do that. I'm going to add a couple of new phrases to help with this weak phrase. So I want my local branch business hours, and one more. Give me the business hours for my local branch. And then I will just click on Update Analysis. And this will take a minute or so to run. Once the analysis is complete, I get the results here. So I can see the potential new metrics for the intent here, and my new phrases would potentially be correct and with good confidence and clarity. And then I can see my full list of existing training data phrases and the original phrase, which is at the top here. So this one is now classed as correct and with good confidence and clarity. And I can also see the impact of the other phrases too, and some are good and we can see some are slightly bad. Once I'm happy with those changes, I can then add them for real in my Watson model by clicking here and then copying each one to the clipboard. And then I can run a full test in QBox. If I'm struggling to come up with additional training phrases, I can also use a suggest feature here. Simply click on the Load Suggestions button, wait for this to complete, and then I can tick any suggestions that I want to add to my quick analysis, and I can run another quick analysis if I wish. I can also load more suggestions, and I can repeat the quick analysis and the load suggestions as many times as I want. Let's go back and look at the second phrase. What time will my nearest branch close? The first intent it's getting confused with is the local branch location, and it's 95% confident. And the second place one is data protection at 27%, and my branch opening times is not actually within the top 10, which is why it's stating it's not returned. From the highlighted words, I can establish that definitely branch is the main culprit here, and probably nearest as well, to go to the local branch location intent. And it's just picking up on a few insignificant words from the second predicted intent. And then if we go to the Explain tab, this confirms that nearest and branch are the two main strongest influences to go to this incorrect intent. And if we look at the intent that it should go to, nearest and close are the strongest negative influences. So we probably need to add some more phrases around, because the concept here is about the time the nearest branch close. So we need to add some more phrases for that. And just going back to the training data tab, this confirms there's no other phrases with that concept in it. So let's go back to quick analysis. I will keep these first two questions, and I can add two more to help with this second question. So the first one, give me the time my nearest branch will close. And then one more, want to know what time my nearest branch is going to close. Not quite sure about that one. It's a little bit wordy, but let's see what the quick analysis comes up with. So let's just click on Update Analysis. Okay, again, the potential new metrics are looking good, and all the questions I've added have got good results. So they're all correct and with good confidence and good clarity. And then let's check on the original question, which is here. And we can see that this would potentially be classed as correct now and with good confidence and clarity. So let's go to my third question, which is when does my local branch open? Again, it's getting confused with the local branch location, and which is the first placed intent at 64%. Second place at 41% is local branch, and the correct intent is coming out at third place with 38%. From the highlighted words, I can see again local and branch is probably the strongest influences, but we'll check with the Explain tab shortly. And again, local is coming out quite strongly for the local branch intent. So let's go to the Explain tab. And yet we can see that the strongest influences are local and branch to go to this incorrect intent. Now we've got a fairly good influence for branch and open to the intent that it should go to. Local is a small negative influence here. Looking at the concept of the question, it is all about asking when the local branch opens. So local is quite a key word in this phrase. We go back to the training data. So we've got one phrase about a local branch here, but it's not about, when the branch opens. This is about business hours. So perhaps just one more phrase containing local, branch and open might help to strengthen the concept of this particular one. So I will go back to my quick analysis. And as I said, let's just add one more phrase to see if this helps. Tell me when our local branch is open. And then I'm going to click on Update Analysis again and see what the new potential impact is. Okay, that's finished running, and again the three metrics have increased nicely. My new phrases are looking good, although clarity could be worked on for this one, but I'm still happy with it. Now let's find the original phrase. Yep, this is now correct and with good confidence. So I'm pleased with all of these results, and now all I need to do is go back to my Watson model and copy over each of these changes. I will still need to run a full test in QBox to validate all those fixes for real and to see the impact of the rest of my model. So I downloaded a fresh JSON file from Watson and I ran a new test in QBox, and here's the results. So correctness and confidence haven't actually increased, but clarity has by 2%. So we're still going in the right direction. Don't be put off if there's hardly any changes to these metrics in some of your own tests. It's an iterative process, and sometimes the improvements will be smaller than others. In the largest direct changes area, we can see that my focused intent from the previous test, bronchopeningtimes, has got some good improvements. In the largest indirect or unknown changes, we can see some regressed intents here, but we do also have some good improvements on this one. And we'll take a look at these shortly. So we'll just check on the intent I fixed, and all pinned phrases are now correct and with good confidence and clarity. Moving down to the correctness graph, all phrases are now correct and all are within my confidence threshold. So we can say that the correctness has been fixed for this intent. We do have one false positive, which is preventing the 100% correctness for this one. But again, this should be fixed in the general improvement process. So the next thing is to check on the effect my changes have had on the rest of the model by going to the Change Analysis tab back on the Overview page. And on the correctness graph, we can see the intent that I fixed here, which has got the good increase in correctness. And there's also three other intents that have had increases in their correctness. However, we have got 4 that have regressed in correctness. And if we look at the list down below, we can see, we've got a 70% decrease in this intent. So that's quite significant. So that would probably be the next one to take a look at to try and fix the regression on before moving on. And just taking a quick look at the confidence graph, we can see a few improvements to 4 other intents as well as the one that we fixed, and a couple of looks like fairly minor regressions to 2 intents here, and these are, we've got a -1 here and another -1 there, so that's nothing to worry about. For clarity, we've got quite a lot of intents that have changed, some good, some bad, but from the regressed intents I can see that there's only a few minor regressions here. Let's just look at the chart. We've got -2 there. They seem to are -3, -5, yeah, nothing too much to worry about there. So as I said, the next step I would need to take is to look at this regressed intent, because that is quite a significant regression in correctness. As you can see, by working your way methodically through the worst scoring intents, fixing them, testing in QBox, addressing any regression and further testing, you will gradually improve the overall correctness, confidence and clarity of your model, and it will become more accurate, stable and effective. I hope this gives you some helpful insight into how to improve your own models.